to get them going. But these are the kinds of, it's just a story that came to mind when you were speaking, that sometimes you do get these crazy requests, and I may call up and say, I know this sounds nuts, but is this doable? The other just small thing I wanted to throw out there, well, it's not a small thing, but when you're shooting photos and you're putting locations in the database, we're all under the assumption that these are properties that we can actually approach for filming. What we don't want you to do is go out and shoot your community's best looking locations, but they're in the database, and then later on somebody wants to see it and the owner says, I don't want anything to do with you. That makes us all look bad. We're not asking for, for my purposes, I just like to know that the property owner, whoever it is, will at least consider the possibility. Of course, they're going to have to hear out the producer and the location manager and see if it's something they want to do, and that's really their territory. But when you're finding locations, just make sure that these folks, whoever's involved, that they want to be involved in the industry and they're at least willing to hear a pitch from someone. And I don't know if you have anything else to say about that.
That's it's sort of backing up what I said about it's important that a community, like for street closures and houses, farms, that it be clear. We call it being cleared. That it be cleared for filming, and you don't have to negotiate. But that is our job. But that the person says, well, yeah, if the conditions are right, that includes availability, time, inconvenience. I know sometimes I've approached a farmer and I'm thinking, gosh, it's off season, and I didn't realize that in the wintertime when farmland is dormant, there's a lot of work that goes on, and so we had to fit in around his schedules of fertilization and how he did with his farms, and it's those things that we have to consider. I mean, it would be bad to go into a community having seen a great picture of a great house and the guy said, no, I don't want anybody filming there. So that is important. And
I think that in some places we've already started getting questions about, they want to know about liability and they want to know about, am I going to be paid? Those are the two questions.
And I think those are very good questions. Whether it be an independent film or a studio film or a television series, any legitimate film or production coming into your community carries an insurance policy. That is standard for any production that can name the property owners or the community, even the communities, when we're using the fire and the police, as co-insured on the insurance policy, and we give you an original certificate of insurance. And those policies are always, pretty substantial, even at the most minimum. And they vary, but they always are more than adequate to cover any liability that I think a film company would be.
What's helped us also is for the location manager to get their scouts. A lot of the scouts will put a sheet of paper and they'll tape it on the door, or they'll tape it on the mailbox, not in, but on the mailbox, and to saying they're looking at the home or the area to film. Well, now, since they've checked into our office, they're putting our names as a contact just to back up that they have checked in with the Liaison community, and that has gone a little bit smoother. And we get a lot of calls when they get the sheet too, but that has helped.
And I think something that Pam and both Craig brought up that I think is very critical is time. From the time, our performance time of what we get from a request to having to put photographs and clear photographs in front of our directors and producers is getting more and more compressed. I had 5 days to put together a major scout last week. From the time I was hired to the time I had a director in was 5 days, and they wanted to see 7 different locations in several different parts of the area. And so the Camera Ready program, I used it. I used it all last week to help me, and it really was beneficial. But it's not our calls, we'd love to say call us back in a day or two, but it's really more like an hour or two. And it's very critical that there be a quick response time.
Bringing it kind of full circle, there may be locations that we're asking you to find for that request specifically, but this is where it helps if you've already sort of made this inventory and it's in your system, so that it may be that we find it right when the request comes in, whatever the location is, and if we have it, that we can start the process. But sometimes it will be, I'm looking for this location, and can you go out and find it, or can you send someone? And so it is important to get back as soon as you can. Is there anything else you wanted that we didn't cover from a production standpoint?
When I started doing locations here 30 years ago, you would go to people and say, we'd like to photograph the inside and outside of your house. And the house would be immaculate. And the woman would say, you have to come back later because we have to clean. And in the South, it's very important, especially a lot of the older properties and things, that you explain to them that our cameras do not photograph dirt. They're very insensitive. I don't think there's anything really that, you're going to interface with the public a great deal is my point, and they're going to have a lot of questions for you. That's really the location manager's job. It's kind of the first, or the location assistant's job is to be the first point of contact. It's a matter of realizing that what you think is a great location may be great, but also sometimes the unusual is a good thing too. I can give you some examples. In Cartersville, there used to be, I don't know if it's still there was an old crystal, the old, what you used to call the chrome rooms, that had been changed into something else. It was a great little diner. That's a great location. People are always looking for these little things and little touches. Don't necessarily rule out something because it's not, it doesn't have to be necessarily historical, 100 years old. It could be 30 or 40 years old and still be interesting. It's be aware that there's a lot of things in Newton, for example, that I've shot that that weren't necessarily historical. High school, for example, is a real good example. If you have an interesting high school, those are always in demand for some reason in movies, mainly because movies are made for young people primarily. So these are the kind of things that would really be helpful to have in your database.
I've started one that says schools, open, close, dirt roads, churches. It's like I've got the obvious already on my files. Then that opens up when I get the request that we can go out and look for the unusual too. And now I look at the entire county differently because you have to react quick and be a quick learner. So I try to look at it now as what are they looking for, and I keep the camera now with me at all times to take extra shots too along my day.
This discussion is making me wish that we could keep this going another hour so I could talk about photography specifically, but I did want to just throw out there that, also coming full circle, but from what Tom just said, the list that we have in the Camera Ready Resource Library is very extensive. Different things that we typically scout for, and it covers the pretty stuff and it covers the abandoned, derelict stuff that you may drive by today and not even think about it as a location, but maybe it works for us. So I again tell you to look at that list, and then when you're getting photos together, the kind of photography that we all work with is a little different than you may be used to from a tourism or a marketing standpoint. I mean, sometimes like at my work, we've got a lot of photos in our tourism department of big festivals. It's a nice, quaint, small town and a giant festival full of people and banners and everything. That's not what we want to see. We just want to see the town itself. So what we typically look for sometimes is a lot different than that. So if you're trying to pull stock photos that you may have just to kind of get something in the database, keep that in mind, that for us, we're primarily interested in the actual shooting location and not so much what you may use to sell it for a tourism or marketing purpose. I think we got about 10 minutes left or so. I mean, I don't really have a deadline, but I think we got to get out soon. If you have any questions, this would be a great time to...
One thing I'd like to add into is, I don't know how many people are familiar with all this stuff. My experience is very minute, but there's also features like I have a friend of mine that works up in Cherokee County. She's at the Cherokee County Arts Alliance. She used to be in Coweta. We couldn't hardly fund her with anything, programs and all that kind of stuff. Now she's in an old Methodist church. And the Joyful Noah's crew came in, I think, in the last couple of weeks, redone the auditorium in her Arts Alliance son, repainted, done everything, fixed it up, and even give her some money. And so stuff like this, as a county commission, you're always trying to fund stuff from the state is hard to get funded. And then you have something improved like this that you don't have to fund, that's left with you to use. And the other thing, what we're doing is, as Coweta Liaison, Craig will tell you how exuberant his staff is and how many they are. So from doing this, he picks up 100 maybe employees per se all across the state of Georgia. It's important to what y'all do to help him cite things in your area. So the better this works for all of us, the better it's going to be. And I think it's well worth doing. I really want to say I appreciate y'all putting this together.
Thank you.
Question.
I was interested because we're outside the zone. We don't have the 30-mile from Atlanta airport deal.
But
So
that's not, a zone could be right in the center of your town.
okay, because it's 30 at least 30 miles from the courthouse or whatever.
Or wherever the production office is.
Okay, thank you.
In TV, that's true. And for a TV series, I could set up a TV series, let's say in Rome, and my zone is 30 miles from my production office. However, there's a crew zone as well, and you have to draw your crew from a 60-mile zone from around that. So it would mean that for most productions, where they draw their crew from is where they make a big decision on it, because if you hire 100 people, for example, you have to put 100 people in a hotel room. That's what the concern is. The zone is not, it's a union designation. Most of the technical crew on movies are unionized, and either in the IA or the Teamsters, and they have a zone, and that's what